Hello, I'm Robert Donahue from the Environmental Learning Research Centre at Rhodes University. And Wilma van Staden and I have been working on heritage food gardening to develop this module for LEAP schools. Heritage was particularly important, so we worked with leading African heritage scholars like Charles Chikunda, Sibongile Masuku, Sol Shava, and Mutizwa Mukute. And they all inspired us over the years with, as Sol said, the uncovering and recovering of indigenous heritage that was otherwise now in the reaches of history and beyond the reach of most people. So one of the key questions that we looked at was the heritage foundations of a land care ethic. And we asked the questions, how are early African heritage practices a foundation for land care ethics? And we came up with 4 modules here: the initial taming of the land and the ethic embedded in that, looking at climate variation as the migrations went further south, looking at the taming practices and migrations that managed to limit diseases in the area, and heritage practices that enabled agroecological sustainability in Southern Africa. So the first module covers these questions on climate and heritage. And then we look at more the pedagogical side in the classroom settings and the activation of heritage in curriculum settings. And here we looked at the archaeological and genealogical evidence of heritage that supersedes and overturns many of the colonial narratives. Then we looked at heritage practices developed as a foundation for land care. We look at the past and understanding concerns of the present as a pedagogical practice. Then we look at dialectic methods for working with heritage in school science. And another method is the expansion of existing good teaching for the inclusion of heritage and ESD in action learning. And finally, the question of assessment and the assessment of significant learning. So all the methodological stuff is covered in the second of these PDF with YouTubes. Then we look particularly now at food gardening, and we look at the indigenous knowledge associated with waste recycling and composting, Izala and Ututu. We look at rainwater capture and optimizing soil moisture, Ukugulesha, the gathering and growing of greens and wild greens, in particular the imifino, soil fertility and water retention and humus, mycorrhiza, Ukutata, Slati, Lomti. And then we look at seed saving and solidarity, Mashuelo, from the Sutu. And these are covered in the third of the YouTube PDFs. So what we were concerned with is how can we teach this curriculum that we currently have in our different countries with the inclusion of indigenous heritage to foster an ethics-led school and community approach to ESD. So the modules have been structured around African land care ethics and ethics-led approaches to ESD using handprint methodologies, and they're centered on practical heritage food gardening. So African land care and early climatic challenges is in the first PDF. Then the second PDF covers the methodological side, heritage and curriculum pedagogy. And the third one looks at heritage food practices directly related to the way that food gardening is done. And you can click and play each of the 3 to 5 minute YouTube presentations online if you wish. You can also download them as active PDFs to explore them in any order and at your own pace. Or you can undertake the exploration as a course by registering for a course-supported project with LEAP Schools online learning program that Wilma is developing. So hopefully you'll be able to explore these. Key things to remember are that indigenous knowledge is also local, It's in mother tongue. These are only really startup ideas. You can't really portray indigenous knowledge in this didactic way, but the didactics can provide you starting points to explore with local people in local heritage, and to do that alongside your students in really practical ways that are associated with heritage food gardening. So we look forward to hearing from you and seeing how you get on with these modules.